So here's 2024. Klay
Bigger
Thompson,
list. Okay.
Not happening. Yeah, it's larger. But, and then, of course, these are players who probably will sign extensions, some of them.
So let's go
Harris,
through.
We discussed it's not going to happen.
Yeah, Klay Thompson's going to sign an extension. Middleton will sign some sort of extension. Siakam will sign some sort of extension. McCollum's an interesting one. I don't think the Knicks are trading Julius for McCollum. Do you?
No, I do not.
No.
Same thing with Karl Anthony Towns.
No, yeah.
Same with Devin Booker. I don't see Kristaps Porzingis reunion happening, or him being moved in a deal where the pieces go out and everything. So
you imagine Julius Randle for Kristaps. Who says no? There you go.
Yeah. Gordon Hayward. We've talked about him.
Andrew, you're great.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward, we have talked about. Yes. Kyle Lowry. Don't see that one.
Nope. DeMar. Nope. He's not getting dealt. Same thing with Jalen Brown. Same thing with Draymond Green. Buddy Hield. Yes, theoretically they could do it, but Buddy Hield also had a really nice time in Indiana. He revived his value quite a bit. They could easily just keep him. They'd be fine with that, I'm sure.
But again, this is like the Knicks are going to, the Pacers are going to give up Buddy Hield and something else, right? Because the Knicks are going to want something else for Julius Randle. It doesn't make sense on paper.
Yeah. You'd have to involve a third team. You could do it. It doesn't feel the most grounded. Mike Conley.
The aged Mike Conley.
Maybe Utah blows it up, but similar to Bogdanovich, doesn't seem like what the Knicks would have in mind, but you never know. Just Conley's getting up there in age. He's still talented, but he's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of age and the Knicks core. Van Fleet, no.
Would not be shocked if Van Fleet extended this summer. I know he could probably get more if he waits, but I would not be surprised if he is a 120% candidate this summer.
Definitely possible.
Yeah.
Eric Gordon is a really fascinating player because he has a team option. It basically becomes fully guaranteed if his team wins the championship, but I don't see that really happening. So he can actually be non-guaranteed in 2023. But that goes back to the whole expiring salary and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, maybe there's a 3-team deal where the Knicks take on Eric Gordon and send out Julius Randle and some other piece goes to the Rockets. But at the same time, it's like Eric Gordon's a talented player. He's also similar to Conley. He's getting up there in age.
I would be very surprised if this is the direction the Knicks were going, unless again they got some sort of draft equity, and I don't see. And by the way, the Rockets don't have a whole lot of draft equity to trade because they traded away a lot of it already. So
very true. Joe Harris, don't see that happening between the Knicks and the Nets.
No,
Sabonis isn't going anywhere.
Nope.
Dinwiddie would be hilarious, but that's not going to happen. The Knicks had the chance to sign Dinwiddie. It's not because he's not the point guard that they like, and I think the playoffs are kind of, he's certainly cooled down a bit. I mean, he's been bad in the playoffs, but he's great in his time with Dallas before the season started. But the Knicks had the opportunity to sign Dinwiddie this summer and they chose not to because
they didn't want
he's a little bit more inefficient, not a great floor spacer, doesn't pull up a lot, but he drives relentlessly. So, but
again, if you're going to carve out it. So what, the Knicks are going to get another pick from Dallas so they could swap in. I don't think Dallas wants to do that. I don't think the Knicks want to do that.
Probably not. Bogdanovich. Again, you're now talking about Atlanta having to figure out the John Collins situation to accommodate this. Yeah. I don't think that's something they want to go. And Bogdanovich has a traded player exception, mind you. A trade kicker similar to.
Oh,
Julius,
does he?
Actually, he does.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. It was part of that poison pill type salary that
gotcha.
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Gary Trent Jr., I don't see Toronto parting with him. He had a great season. Again, we're back to Orlando. Randall with Markelle Fultz in this point. We've talked about Fultz and his aversion to
Randall for Markelle Fultz. That's where we have arrived, ladies and gentlemen. DeJounte Murray, Spurs are not doing that.
Marcus Morris, again, I still think he's much better suited for a Derrick Rose trade, but it'd have to be Morris and another salary that you're bringing in Randall. But from LA's perspective, it's probably better of a 3-team deal. So then where's Randall going for the third team? It's just a lot to handle. Valanciunas, I don't see him going anywhere.
That's not happening.
And then Malik Beasley, where he's doing well in a role off the bench. So of this list now, how confident are we feeling that these are the players that the Knicks are acquiring?
Not very. I don't. None of the players that we're looking at right now on this list, or none of the players that we just went through, are guys who scream like, yes, this is good. This is a reasonable expectation for a Julius Randle trade.
And I'm going to go to 2025 in a second, but for those of you listening or watching, you're potentially thinking, okay, hold on a second, right? Because these two knuckleheads talked about the fact that Julius Randle is like super easy to move, and we've gone through all these players. Nothing, and it's.
Don't put words in my mouth.
I'm putting words in there, and
you can put words in other people's mouths.
Yes, not your mouth. I'm saying theirs, but the point is, like, the value is neutral, but then there's the second part. How do you find the pieces that work? And that's the challenging part. It's not like what Randall's worth in a vacuum. It's the ability to move him and find teams that find the right pieces. But we'll move to 2025 as well and try to bring this home a little bit.
Okay. So now we are looking at players who make over $50 million a year, who are slated to become unrestricted free agents in 3 years.
Yes.
And the first two names on this list both play for the Clippers, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I don't see it happening.
I don't either. And again, this was the list that had the player options of Giannis, Jason Tatum, Mitchell. So Damian Lillard, it would be very funny if the Knicks traded for Lillard. And I don't mean that necessarily in like, the Knicks should totally do it. Yes, if the price is so low that it makes sense, we can have that conversation, but I just don't see it happening regardless. So
how do you think that conversation would go between who's running the Blazers now? I don't even know. Not Neil O'Shea.
It is not. No, he was like a Joe.
He was
Cronin.
Sure.
Yeah.
So like the next who calls who? It's like the Knicks are like, yeah, we'll take Dame off your hands. We'll give you Julius. And the Blazers are like, well, first they're going to say no. But then they're going to be like, well, just out of curiosity, what else are you packaging with him? Yeah, I don't think that conversation gets very far.
It doesn't. But I will say again, when we talked about Julius in regards to Donovan Mitchell, if there is that prevailing thought of Julius as a salary filler and a way for him to try to quote unquote cook on Portland if they go into full rebuild mode.
Yeah.
And then it's like, as you said, what other pieces are you attaching? Does Portland want another draft pick, specifically what could very easily or likely pan out to be the 11th pick in the draft? Are there young players on the roster? Like, can they use Julius as not the centerpiece, but maybe a piece and the salary filler for the most part in how they get Damian Lillard? I don't know. I also don't think the Knicks want Damian Lillard in the sense of like, let's get a guy who, I'm not saying 31, 32 is old, but the whole thing with Dame is that you're basically acquiring him to then extend him because that's what he wants.
Yes.
He wants the massive extension that I feel very queasy about. It's like, if you don't want to pay Jimmy Butler his next deal, don't pay Damian Lillard that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be in a potentially worse position.
No, that deal's going to age very poorly. Next up, Anthony Davis. We just talked about that's not happening. Ben Simmons.
I'm just going to move right along for everyone's sake.
Who says no?
Past it. Drew Holiday.
Nope.
No.
Brandon Ingram.
No.
Nope.
Jamal Murray.
No.
Chris Paul, if he hadn't been non-guaranteed beforehand by Phoenix, because that's in his contract. No. Clint Capella.
No,
not for Julius.
No, not a chance.
Here it is. Here's one option that we've talked about.
There he is.
Clinging to. It's Malcolm Brogdon.
It's right? Not nuts.
It's not. Again, like, it all depends on if Indiana is comfortable with it. But I think that the thing with Brogdon that's being overlooked, which sort of plays into New York's hands a bit, is that he doesn't stay healthy. Right. So
yeah.
Like, and he's a driving point guard who finishes. He had a 50-40-90 season not too long ago. This season was not a great shooting season.
No, he shot very poorly from deep this year. Yeah.
His pull-up game is okay. Usually it's fine. I think not this past season. The season before it was weak, but I might be mixing that up. He's the type of player where it does satisfy getting rid of Randall. You could see Randall fitting with Indiana. You can see Brogdon starting that role and kind of being this prototypical big guard who can help mask some of the defensive point of attack woes. And like he also isn't going to be healthy. So does that mean Emmanuel quickly sees more time? Does it mean Alec Burks sees more time? I'm half joking. Does it mean Deuce McBride gets more time as well? Is Derrick Rose still in the equation? Probably not if you have Malcolm Brogdon in there too. But he's like the salary filler and fills a role that it seems the Knicks want to fill for why this deal makes sense.
I do think, did I say this before? The John Collins, Malcolm Brogdon, Julius Randle 3-teamer. I think that.
Yeah, I could see that type of move being made.
I don't think that that's crazy. Although if you're the Knicks, it's like, okay, we're getting Malcolm Brogdon for Julius Randle. That's it. We're moving on.
Stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I feel like we're at a place where we've looked at these three classes, and we feel better about this one more than any others.
Yeah.
By a wide margin.
Lonzo just signed.
It's not going to happen. Although again, he's been injured similar to Malcolm Brogdon. It's followed him his full NBA career, unfortunately.
Man, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. Tim Hardaway Jr. Okay.
That's sure.
There's a name.
No.
Evan Fournier, we don't need to talk about. OG Anunoby, a player I really like, is not getting traded to the Knicks for Julius Randle. Derek White just got traded to Boston. It's not going to happen. You mentioned Jonathan Isaac. Why is Orlando doing that trade? They're not.
Also, why are the Knicks doing that trade?
I mean, Isaac has some theoretical upside, but yes, he blocks Toppin, so that's an issue. He hasn't seen the court in a long time either. Lauri Markkanen just signed in Cleveland. Does seem he could play the 3. He's played the 3 this year a little bit. It has worked. Yeah. Julius Randle cannot do that. And then the last name on this list, another Dallas Maverick, Davis Bertans. How you doing?
So Bertans is this year, not this year, but the 2025 year is actually a partially guaranteed year for him.
Yes.
So he could be a free agent in 2024, with like I think $5 million guaranteed.
So 2 more fully guaranteed years.
Right. So he doesn't really belong in this category. He's probably more in the 2024. Bertans, it's like one of those deals where if you did Randle for Bertans and added picks, what's left of what Dallas has, or at least one other, it's almost like that mindset of, yes, that's fine because it gets Julius Randle out of our hair. Fortunately, the Knicks aren't going to operate that way, and they shouldn't, because that's just, I before had this thinking of like, oh, that could work in the sense of like, you do it, it satisfies all parties. But when you take a step back, it's like, no, you're basically, again, trading a starter for a player who's really not good in their rotation because they don't have that many pieces. And maybe like the 25th pick overall in a future draft. Yeah, it's a future asset you could play with, but it does nothing. It doesn't help you do much.
I don't think they're doing this trade for a pick.
I don't even know. So, all right. Well, we ran through those 3. I just want to go back to this because we went to the teams we saw beforehand, and we could, after we looked through all those names, we could now easily run through it one more time to see if we've stumbled upon anything different. Heat, Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Raptors, Bulls, Nets, Hawks. We've said no to all of them except maybe
Atlanta.
The Atlanta trade. That's a 3-team deal with Brogdon. Cavs, Hornets, off the table.
Wizards, probably not.
Pacers,
maybe.
Sure, we talked about Brogdon, which is part of the other one.
Pistons and Magic, no.
Yeah, like mostly cap space or like a Kelly Olynyk type. Suns, Grizzlies, Warriors, out. Mavs, we've discussed those players. The Jazz, again, has to go back to Spida if they want to do that.
Yep.
Nuggets, no. Wolves, no. Pelicans, you're going to talk about in your newsletter, but probably no. Same with the Clippers and probably the Spurs and the Lakers and the Kings and potentially the Blazers.
Maybe the Blazers.
But maybe. And then no for the Thunder realistically, and then no for the Rockets. So
that's a lot of no's, Jeremy.
It is, which is why it then comes down to that 3-team deal, which is, what it feels like it's going to be if it's not a Malcolm Brogdon type of trade. And even then that could be a 3-team deal for all we know. But it also brings us to our best friend. Base year compensation once again.
Why are we talking about this today?
Why are we talking about this today? Well, I will tell you. Again, as a refresher, if you did not watch the last Cap or No Cap, base year compensation affects players who are making next to no money, or actually it could be more, but then they make a lot more than that. The 4 conditions. Number 1, the prior team uses full bird or early bird rights to re-sign the player, right? It's a player they've had for at least 2 to 3 years, or at least that they've traded to, and that player on the last team when they signed the contract was on the roster for 2 to 3 years. Player's new salary is more than the minimum amount. It's also more than 20% of the last contract, and that the team that would be trading them basically signs the player as an over the cap team and then trades them away. So why am I talking about this? Well,
I have no idea.
There are 3 options in terms of sign and trades. And I've actually talked about the first 2, but I'll refresh it. Number 1, let's say the Knicks trade Randle to a team with cap space. It generates a large traded player exception. The Knicks could function over the salary cap. They could work out a sign and trade with a free agent. They generate a traded player exception for the other team. They could trade a player over to that other team and or a pick, multiple picks, multiple players. Base year compensation is unlikely to be a factor if the matching isn't an issue, right? Because if the Knicks had someone sign and trade a free agent into their traded player exception, matching isn't an issue because you're not necessarily sending anything back. Like you're probably sending the rights to, I don't know, like an international player, for example, something where you touch on it and qualify what you need to, but you can avoid base year compensation that way. That's one of the 3 ways. Well, 2 ways, I guess. The second way, of course, is if the Knicks did the same thing, but then operated as an under the cap team, right? So they dumped Julius Randle, created a traded player exception, said to hell with the traded player exception. We want to sign a player outright. The Knicks could do this, especially if it's an unrestricted free agent and the player just walks. And what's more, the Knicks could do what they did with Evan Fournier and the Boston Celtics, which was, we're going to sign Evan Fournier out of cap space. And then the Celtics go, wait, hold on. What if we gave you like a fake second and a real second, and we created a traded player exception? And the Knicks say, sure. Yeah, that sounds great to us. That's fine. We'll do it. They could always do that. And that's another way that base year compensation wouldn't be a factor. We're good, right?
We're good so far.
Cool. This brings us to the third option. And I want to talk about...
By the way, both of those were with the Knicks trading Julius Randle to a team with cap space.
Correct.
As opposed to trading Julius Randle directly to a team that would then sign and trade a player to the Knicks, which is not what we were just talking about. So,
right.
This is now where we are at.
This is where we're at. Option 3, sign and trade. And I wanted to talk about one unrestricted free agent because he seems to be the man of the week. And I know you talked about him in one of your newsletters, that being Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about the who, what, why, where with Jalen Brunson. I don't want to get off topic. I just want to mention him as a player and how this would go down or how it wouldn't go down. So if Julius Randle's traded after July 6th, his cap hit is going to be $27,560,000. The reason why it would be July 6th and not beforehand is because Jalen Brunson's a free agent and you can't work out a sign and trade before July 6th for a free agent. Just ask the Milwaukee Bucks how that went about with Bogdan Bogdanovic. So it'd have to be after this date. Now, the Knicks could then acquire up to $34.55 million when they go about with matching. And now I say minimum money income, but I have incoming, but I have minimum in quotes because it's not really the minimum, right? Like, as we mentioned with another team, if the Knicks dumped salary and figured something out, like there are ways where they could also sign Brunson for less than this, but it'd have to be more of the first 2 options, right? So right now it's basically saying that the money that they would have to pay Jalen Brunson to come to New York and do this deal is $21 million, or starting salary, $21,968,000. That would basically equate to, with a 5% ascending raise, 4 years, $94.5 million.
Not a bad payday.
I understand it's not. And I understand some of you are not on the Jalen Brunson train. I respect that. I also can tell you that they can do descending 5%. So it wouldn't actually be that. It could be less.
Well, 8% because Dallas is signing into the contract, right?
No, because you can't do 8% in a sign and trade.
Oh, okay. All right. I got you. Right. Didn't realize that.
So that's the way that they could go about it. And here's the thing, right? You could think, oh, well, Dallas is acquiring $27.5 million and sending out, they're doing 21.96. It's meeting, or 968. It's meeting the requirements that Jeremy said. Well, here's the fun thing about outgoing money for base year compensation teams, specifically the ones trading them away. It counts for 50%. So it would actually be $10.984 million, which does not match, as we can put a big fat X emoji on there.
And like you're looking at these numbers, there's literally no way for a Jalen Brunson and a Julius Randle sign and trade to work, in a direct sign and trade to work money wise. It cannot happen.
You're right. It can't. But you said the word direct.
Yes, direct. Yes.
There's a way, John. If there's a will, there's a way.
There's always a way. I
gotta be honest. I was proud of this because I worked it out and I ran it by someone that I trust with this stuff, and they confirmed it.
Okay.
So what would it be? Well, how do we fix this? Hypothetically, it would be Julius Randle going to the Dallas Mavericks, the Mavericks sending Brunson to the Knicks, and then the Mavs trading salary like Tim Hardaway Jr. or Davis Bertans to a team with cap space. And then the team that has cap space that's taking on one of those players, maybe they send one of those heavily protected picks we talk about. It's like a second round pick that will only convey if it's 55 to 60. And we know it's not going to convey. And that's how you do it. That's like the type of math involved for how you still have the same math I talked about, but it's also the Mavs shaving off salary. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say this is so correct me if I'm wrong. This would be one trade. This would not be separate deals. This
would be one deal. Correct.
Yes,
now,
because
you could break it up, mind you. But in this case, when I say you could break it up,
I think it would have to be one deal because the Mavs are not close enough to getting under the cap.
Correct. This specific one, this example, yes, is one deal.
This would have to be good, 100%. Or this would have to be one deal. So, because I think what you're getting at here is it doesn't matter where the money is going. At the end of the day, what you need to report back to the league office is this is the amount of money that we are taking in and this is the money that we have going out. And as long as those numbers match based on the salary matching rules, which it depends how much there are different salary matching categories. We don't need to get into that right now. But as long as at the end of the day, the numbers add up, then you're fine. This is creative. I will say this is creative. I'm impressed. This is really good.
If you're wondering, like, why does this trade happen? It's mainly contingent upon four main things. It's Brunson demanding out. Why does Jalen Brunson want to leave? Well, it all depends on payday. Keep in mind, I know that a lot of people, specifically Mavs fans, I've been following. My algorithm is now very Mavericks focused because I've been keeping tabs on Brunson for a while. Yeah. And I've seen Mavs fans being like, well, the Knicks would have to pull all these strings and they can't offer this much money. And if we go back, the Knicks could offer up to $34 million. Jalen Brunson cannot legally make that much money. He'd have to top out at 30.5. I'm not saying he should make a full max contract, but I'm just saying that the idea that the Knicks can't offer that when you do the deal I just constructed, that's false. Well, the Knicks could say like, hey, Dallas, we're going to offer this dude this much money. And we're either going to go about it in a number of ways. Number one, we trade Julius Randle to a team with cap space, and then we could just sign Jalen Brunson. Or we could do that, sign Jalen Brunson into a sign and trade of the TPE, right? Because again, if the Knicks were to, I know I'm losing people, so let me take a step back, right?
No. I think the easier way to say it is the Knicks are not a team that is so far above the cap that they cannot feasibly open cap space to the point where they could say, look, Dallas, we have the ability to do this. If we want to, we are more than happy to play ball with you so that we don't have to give a first round pick to the fucking Magic to take on whatever. I'm just making up a team to take on who would it be? Whatever, Nerlens Noel or Alec Burks or whatever. The point is, the Knicks, I think, haven't, and we don't need to get into the whole thing about like there will be probably some team that wants Derrick Rose on essentially an expiring contract and may even be willing to pay a small price to obtain Derrick Rose. Might they have to pay a little something to get off of Burks? Might a team pay a little something? Whatever. The point is, they can move around salary to the point where they can become a cap space team, as long as they have the ability to do that and credibly look Dallas in the eye and say, look, we got this over here. If we want it. So either play ball with us or you're not getting anything. That's, I think, what you're getting at.
Yeah, it 100% is. Yes. Because if you're Dallas, you could say, well, crap, if we're going to lose Jalen Brunson, I mean, number one, we don't want to, but if he's getting a ton of money and we can't,
if we're losing him anyway,
right, we might as well make lemonade out of lemons. And then you say, if you're Dallas, you're like, well, we would like something more than maybe number one, Brunson walking for nothing. Number two, Brunson walking and it only generates a traded player exception, because the Mavs could then sign and trade Brunson into the traded player exception that the Knicks would have created by dumping Julius Randle. Or they could say, well, a pretty good trade for us if we're going to lose Jalen Brunson, if he's made up his mind and he's gone, is we get back the hometown kid, Julius Randle, whose value is low. We can revive that, pair him with Luka. And then that's why I was saying with the idea of what if they're also interested in Miles Turner, right? They could go to Indiana and say, hey, Indiana, how would you feel about Dwight Powell, Trey Burke, and a future first round pick? And maybe Indiana actually is interested in that. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But it's that type of thinking where it's Dallas could then say, yeah, we lost Jalen Brunson. That sucks. But
well, wait a minute. Hold on.
What?
Couldn't they just send Bertans or Hardaway, for that matter, to Indy?
They could,
no, because that wouldn't
one of those
work out.
salaries has to.
Okay.
So that's the benefit, right? Like there are a lot of
hold on. Wait,
here,
they could send both out. They can send one to a cap space team and the other one's to Indiana.
Exactly.
There you go.
So
4-team trade.
Right. And then if you're also Dallas, another thing you could think about is, well, we've upgraded our roster. Why don't we just call up Goran Dragic and say, hey, how would you like to be our backup point guard or our starting point guard instead of Jalen Brunson, who we appear to be losing? And then you add depth. Like that is how you basically turn the Jalen Brunson, we've lost him situation into, but look what we've gained.
Anything could happen at this point. So it's a little premature to talk about this. But I'm happy we went through that exercise, because I did, again, you've blown me away now twice in a row, Jeremy. I did not think about the ability to send that money to a team with cap space, which I guess the Knicks would probably send. The Knicks would probably send the pick. They would have to send the pick, right? Probably.
It depends on how, well, here's the thing. It depends on how Randle is viewed. Because again, I'm not saying but that's the issue. It's more complicated than that, because we could talk about Dallas, right? But if they're also finding a way to dump Bertans' salary, for example.
Yeah, no, forget I said that. They're getting Julius Randle.
But I had that same thought of like, who is attaching some sort of asset to the team? What's going, I can't fully answer it. There are a couple varying ways it could go down, but from my vantage point, it's if Brunson's committed to coming to New York, and he may not be, but let's say he is, then how the Knicks can finagle it and try to leverage that against Dallas. And then Dallas says, okay, well, we understand the predicament we're now in. We can take on Julius Randle. We can always do other things to tinker around the margins and maybe bring in a player like Miles Turner, do something like that. If it costs us a pick that we know is going to be late because we're going in on a contender right now and we feel like we can win a championship today around Luka Doncic, then you worry about later, and you worry about right now.
Man, the Bertans money is not good.
It's not.
And the Timmy money ain't much better.
It's the only thing about the Timmy money that's better is that it's a declining contract, but then the Bertans deal, there's one fewer year. So like you pick your poison, but Timmy can be a rotation piece for a team. Like this is another option. Can you make this a 4-team deal? Could you move Tim Hardaway Jr. to a team like Sacramento that really wants more.
Might
wings.
actually,
And
yeah.
then do they move Rashawn Holmes and Mo Harkless to Dallas? To Detroit, because Detroit was looking for a center. And then it's like, you're telling me that we basically give up a fake second round pick and we get Rashawn Holmes, although he of course has baggage that we've talked about, and the Mo Harkless contract that's expiring, and like that's all we get for using our cap space. That works for us too. So maybe you find other partners that want to dance with you.
Yeah, if the Knicks are giving up Julius Randle, they're paying Jalen Brunson this kind of contract. I don't think they're giving up a pick for the right to do so. But again, if you're Dallas, this really all does come down to Brunson. We'll save it, but it comes down to Brunson. If Brunson wants to push this thing, the ball's in his court. That's all it is.
100%.
All right, man.
I think we did that justice.
What?
I think we did that justice.
No, we did that justice. It is really, and again, I've done like the exercise we've just did. I do that like in my head probably once a week, going through these teams, just waiting for something new to materialize. And it's funny, Jeremy, nothing new ever seems to, which is why you start to get a little kooky and come up with crazy trade ideas. No, he's a tradable contract. It's not going to be that easy of a time to find a trade, and it's going to have to be, in all likelihood, and I think this is a good place to end it, a situation where there is being pressure exerted by some external force, which is to say outside of the Knicks organization. Because I think the one conclusion that we've kind of reached already, which is that like, and I've said this in different ways, the Knicks are not going into their meetings this summer with like, okay, we've decided we're moving on from Julius Randle. Let's figure out the best deal and we'll just take it. That's not what is going to happen here. There's going to need to be pressure exerted from another external force, whether it's a player, an agent, or team who gets desperate, whatever, something. That's going to be where that trade is going to happen. And maybe it's this. We'll see.
I concur.
Andrew?
Hi, John.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Jeremy, well done, as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. You ready for the quickest producer's corner of all time? Thank you for everybody I have no idea how many parts this ended up. So either part 2 or for listening to this 2 or 3 part podcast. We know that you're going to love it because you guys seem to really love it when we let these two exercise their brain muscles when it comes to the cap and the no cap.
This is the fun stuff.
Yes. And
this is my season.
I know.
Yeah.
This is literally your SZN, your season. Okay. Yep. But speaking of Julius Randle, Producer's Corner is Julius Randle themed, and it's what we want other fan bases and their front offices. If you just for some reason tuned into this portion of the podcast, here, we're going to tell you all about the player that you're getting, and it's that he's one of 8 players since 2000 to average 20, 10, and 5 in a season, just as Leon Rose said. So these two are now going to guess the other 7 players since 2000 to average 20, 10, and 5.
Who goes first?
Age before beauty. So go ahead, John.
Giannis.
Giannis is one. He did it 4 times. Crap. Jokic is another. He's done it he's done it 3 times. Missed it 2 years ago, but has done it 3 of the last 4 years.
It's since 2000?
Since 2000. So since I did it since Michael Jordan retired. So the 99 season, which was half the season, I didn't count. So it's a 99-2000 season since then.
I think, didn't Boogie do it the year he tore his Achilles?
You are incredible. Yes. Nice. That's a 1 year. Boogie Cousins. Well done. That's one I'd forgotten about.
I forgot about
it. He averaged 25, 12, and 12.9 and 5.4 in the 17-18 season.
I think also that season he put up a stat line that like it was like him and Chamberlain in some game where he like, I don't know what it was, but it was some crazy stat line.
Jeremy.
Big time Tim Duncan?
No, Tim Duncan.
Timmy never averaged that many assists. I'm going to guess Timmy topped out at like, did he ever get 4 assists in a game? I wonder.
I can look it up, but it would require me to leave the screen. So I'll let one of you look it up.
I'll look it up.
Wait, so now I have to pick another player, right?
Yes. Again, this is 2010 and 5, and not like 4.9, which Julius averaged 9.9 rebounds this year. So technically, Leon Rose was wrong. He didn't do it in back-to-back seasons. 10.0 or more.
Oh,
say this of Russell Westbrook. Yeah, did it 4 years
the
in
obvious
a row.
one. Yeah.
Yes.
It was 3.9 that Timmy topped out at.
There you go. He played in an era where it was first to 81. So yeah.
James Harden
did not.
He never averaged 10 rebounds?
No.
Yeah.
What did he top out with rebounds? He had to get close to 9.
Thank you.
He had to get close to 9. So yes. What have we guessed now? 5?
You have guessed Giannis, DeMarcus Cousins, Jokic, and Westbrook, and obviously Randle. So there's
just 3 more?
3 more. Yes. Yes, 3 more. One is an NBA champion.
Well, hold on. Did Sabonis do it last year?
Yes. Look at you.
Nice,
Domantas Sabonis last year. Jeremy. One is an NBA champion. One might have won a championship had things not happened.
Had things not happened?
That's the only hint I'm giving right now.
Things not.
Yeah. Maybe Netflix is making a documentary about a guy that
I don't even know what
maybe Netflix is making a documentary about a guy that prevented.
I know this one now.
Is it Vlade Divac?
No, come on, wrong guy.
Chris
on that team.
Go ahead, say it.
Chris Webber.
Chris Webber, yes. Now the other one's an NBA champion, Jeremy, and it did it the most on this list. He did it 6 times.
Well, for what it's worth, Harden in 2016 averaged 29.1, 8.1 rebounds, and 11.2 assists per game.
8.1 topped out at? Okay.
Is that his MVP year? You said 2018?
This was 2016.
So that's I
don't think that was his NBA.
So that's 15, 16. It's a year before he lost to Russ.
16, 17. So actually,
that's the year he lost to Russ because we were obsessed with triple doubles.
Right. So
okay.
Yeah.
Can I give you you want to take a shot at the last one or you want me to give it to you?
Give me, I mean, Andrew said it was an NBA champion.
An NBA champion.
One-time NBA champion.
John knows it.
Okay. I was going to say Bogut just in terms of, but he wouldn't have had a number of assists.
Jeremy, nothing
also
is
wouldn't
impossible.
have had the points. Yeah.
Anything is possible.
Oh, Kevin Garnett. Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, that is one time.
There you go.
Yep.
That's good trivia.
Yeah.
So look at the company that you are trading for in Julius Randle. Him and Kevin Garnett are just like the same player. Yeah.
And Julius Randle, I just want to put out, is a God-fearing family man who cares deeply.
Kaiden and Jace.
About the work. Amen.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all about the work for him.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good question. There's a lot more if you go back throughout more NBA history. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure if I go further back, it shows a much larger one here. I'll do to 1990 and see what the results give me.
I actually don't know if we're going to get a lot more going back to 90.
So if you add 1990, it's just Barkley that you add. And then if you add,
makes sense. MVP year specifically?
Yes, 1993. 1993.
And then
1980.
Bird did it a bunch in the 80s.
Larry Bird did it 5 times. That's the only person you add from the 80s. Wow.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't actually. And if you could, I think you could go all the way back. I think you're going to get an Oscar. You're going to get. I don't think Kareem.
You get an Emmy.
Here, I will do since 1960.
Golden Grammy.
This is great.
You got it.
That was well done. All right. Wilt did it a bunch of times.
Kareem did get to 5 1 year.
Sidney Wicks
2 years.
Did it.
Excuse me.
Bill Cunningham did it. Oscar Robertson did it 3 times.
Listen, don't read Bill Cunningham's name like you're reading like fucking Jack Twyman or something. Bill Cunningham is a top 75 player ever.
Yeah, sure. Elgin Baylor did it 3 times. And Kareem did it 3 times. Yes. Want to know what I did the other night as we're about to wrap up? That I think I'm entering Loserville with John with like NBA obsession. Because I've been watching Winning Time on HBO. First, I watched the first part of the Lakers Celtics 30 for 30 because I wanted to refresh my memory. And that part, that first part leads up to their first series in 84. So I wanted to just see the first part. Then on YouTube, it is available. The entire game, game 7 of the 1969 NBA Finals, Lakers Celtics.
You mean 79?
69. Russell's last game.
Oh, okay.
Chamberlain had 5 fouls, got hurt, left with 7 minutes, and then coach didn't put him back in.
Got it.
Yeah. Different version of basketball. So I can just say, you want to talk about no spacing. Yeah. Everybody just running toward the hoop. Jerry West could shoot, had no left hand. That's the biggest takeaway. Jerry West dribbling toward the left side of the court with his right hand, and nobody does anything of. Also, the old heads, but hi Ray, I know you're going to have some pushback on this. That's the era that they played defense. Well, Bill Russell picked up his 5th foul early in the 4th quarter and let whoever do whatever he wanted because he didn't want to foul out. And guess who also did that? Wilt Chamberlain. 47 free throws taken by the Lakers in that game, and they missed 19. That's why they lost, not because Will didn't go back in the game.
I just want to say, it makes sense that the icon is dribbling with his right hand, with his left hand.
Yes,
Jerry West.
Yes, makes sense because he never dribbled with his left hand.
There you go.
Do you realize Wilt Chamberlain once averaged 24 points, 24 rebounds, and 8.6 assists in a single season?
Was that the year he went 48 and a half minutes averaged?
No, that was actually that was the 50. The year he averaged 50. That when he averaged 8.6 per game, it was the year that he made a point to try to lead the league in assists, which he did lead the league in total assists. He did not lead the league in average assists. So fun fact for actually no, sorry, that is correct. Yeah, that is the year he led in total assists, and I don't know who he finished second average. Anyway, these are all good conversations for another time. I just love talking about this shit. I'm sorry. I can't get enough of this.
Yes.
Do you guys want to guess who finished first in the league in average assists per game in the 1967-68 season?
Bob Cousy.
Jeremy, you want to give a guess?
God.
I mentioned his name a few minutes ago.
Oscar Robertson.
It is indeed Oscar Robertson.
That's Big O. Okay.
Big O. Third, Lenny Wilkins. How you doing?
By the way, player coach Bill Russell in 1969. That's what I was confounded by. I was like, oh, the center just called the timeout, and then now he's leading the timeout.
He was very good.
Yeah,
Bill Russell would have been a member of the 2010 and 5 club, but he never averaged 20 points.
Yeah, I know. And imagine if someone had played defense on him, or if he had developed a post move, maybe 20 minutes, 20 points would have happened.
Wow.
Listen, I'm going off of one game I saw it. It's his oldest that he ever played, which is like fine, probably not a good representation. But if that was your game 7 of the NBA Finals drama, where he's literally just like hands off, go ahead, Wilt, turn around and take your hook. You know,
here's your best Randle stat is he. I think he shot better this year than at least one Russell season. I'm sure there's one.
Well, the best Randle stat of the first group that I asked you for, he's the only one since 2000 to average 20, 10, and 5 and shoot better than 40% from 3.
Yes, that I knew. And I think it was
now
him.
Everybody knows it, John.
Thank you. Randle 41.1%. No, actually, sorry. Bill Russell never had a season shooting this poorly. Came close. 65-66, shot 41.5%.
Larry Bird once did it and shot 43% from 3.
That was what I was about to say.
Yeah, 1.5 attempts a game. Because back then they were like, oh, we took a 3. He's a wizard.
All right. This was fun. Andrew, thank you for that. Jeremy, again, just no words. This was really good. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you for participating, John.
Oh, it's what I do.
Couldn't have done that. Needed some pushback and thoughts, so thank you.
No, listen, I will say this very last thought. I think because of what you yourself said at the beginning of the pod, which is like things happen, things are going to happen that we're not anticipating between now and when the offseason starts. We should not be so quick to dismiss some of these teams that right now on paper, you're like, they're not going to make yeah, you know what? You never know. Stranger things have happened. So we will hope for that. And in the meantime, we thank you, our listeners, for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. If you dig the show, don't forget, give us a nice review, drop a 5-star rating. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I think we're getting close to 9,000, right, Andrew? So that's onwards and upwards. And one more plug, check out, I was listening to episode 2 earlier today, high quality content, draft class with Chris Persianen. It's dropping every Saturday, in which Chris talks to a special guest about the draft. And it is these are fun episodes about players that are probably not going to be Knicks because the Knicks are going to trade their pick, but it's neither here nor there. Glad you like that, Andrew. All right. On that note, everybody take care. Have a good week.